Hi, my name is Afif Khuffash. I'm a consultant neonatologist and I'm here to tell you about things to watch out for after your baby is born. I'm going to talk about 4 or 5 main things, so let's get started. The first thing is your baby's feeding pattern. So after your baby is born, the thing to remember is that their stomach is the size of their clenched fist. So that's roughly the size of a small grape. So over the first 24 to 48 hours after they are born, they will be feeding small amounts often. So the babies will have short feeds and they will last for a very short time. And they often may not be feeding as much as you might expect them to, and that's normal. So in a normal healthy pregnancy, the thing to remember is babies will feed short amounts often over the first 24 to 48 hours until the main milk comes in. They'll get all their nutrition from the very nutritious colostrum, and as a result, they don't need to actually feed huge amounts. So that's the one thing to remember. Parents often misinterpret these short, frequent feeds as the baby's not getting enough. But in the vast majority of the time, that is not the case. The baby will get enough nutrition from the small amounts of colostrum that you are producing. If you are using formula over the first 24 to 48 hours, the thing to remember is again that the babies will need small volumes and often, not the huge volumes that you would expect when the baby is older. Right, on to the second thing. How often do they pee? Again, parents are often concerned that they notice that their baby has not peed or is not peeing over the first 24 hours. Again, the thing to remember is babies generally only pee once or twice in the first day after they are born. And that goes up to 2 or 3 times on day 2, and it slightly increases as the milk comes in and they feed more. So baby not peeing over the first 24 hours can be normal, provided they did a small pee on their way out shortly after delivery. So again, not to be too concerned if you don't notice your baby peeing over the first 24, 48 hours. But again, they usually do small amounts once or twice over the first 2 to 3 days. What happens to their meconium, or the stool that they pass over the first 24, 48 hours? So initially, the babies will pass meconium. That's a thick, black, tarry stool. They usually begin to pass that again over the first day. Ideally, they should be doing at least 1 bowel motion over the first 24 hours. Occasionally, they don't pass that in the first day and they pass that in the second day. But again, if there's any concern, your midwife and your physician will promptly review your baby to make sure that everything's okay. What happens to the color and consistency of it? As the milk volumes begin to increase, the color of the meconium and the baby stool will change from the tarry black to a more brownish color. That then by day 3 to 4 will turn into a green color, and by the end of the first week it'll be the normal kind of mustardy, seedy color that you'd normally associate with babies passing stool. And that progression from the black tarry stool all the way to the mustardy, seedy yellow stool at the end of the first week of age is a good indication that the baby's getting enough milk. On to number 4. The thing that the parents are most concerned about over the first week of age is the baby's weight. And again, that can create a lot of anxiety unless you know the normal pattern that the babies go through over the first few days of age. All babies will lose a certain percentage of their birth weight over the first 3 to 4 days. And that usually is around 7%. So babies will usually lose about 7% of their birth weight over the first 3 to 4 days. And then they slowly begin to regain that. And most babies regain their birth weight by the 2nd week of life. Occasionally, some babies will drop their weight down to about 10%. That is sometimes a signal to us that they may not be getting enough milk over the first few days. However, it is still not a cause for alarm or concern, as you know, normal babies can lose up to 10% of their birth weight, and they usually regain it once the milk comes in or the volume of the feeds is slightly increased to accommodate that weight loss. So, just to reiterate, most babies will lose between 7 and 10% of their original birth weight, and they regain that by the 2nd week of life. How do you know that your baby is getting enough feeds after the baby is discharged. Again, when you're in the hospital, you have the luxury of being able to get your baby weighed and measured and assessed by healthcare providers if it is necessary to do so. But once you go home, again, you feel that you need to have a good way of knowing how your baby is doing in terms of the volumes of feeds. So it is the public health nurse usually comes and visits you 24 to 48 hours after your baby leaves the hospital, and they usually check your baby's weight to make sure that the loss that they have done over the first week of age is stopping and they begin to regain it. And they'll usually advise you as what to do next. Another way of checking as to whether your baby is feeding is to look at the frequency of how often they're passing urine. Again, once the baby is established on feeds, once they leave the hospital, they should be passing between 7 to 8 times a day. So you'll notice that every time you go to change the nappy, it'll be wet. So that's a good sign that your baby is getting enough volume. In terms of stooling, well, that can vary. Breastfed babies can sometimes poo up to 12 times a day to nothing for 3 to 4 days. So as long as they're stooling regularly, that is a clear indication or a good indication that they're getting enough volume. Babies that are formula fed will stool, again, roughly once or twice a day, but that can also be very variable. As long as they're stooling regularly, that can be reassuring for the parents. How much volume or how much milk they need is impossible to measure when the mother is breastfeeding. So relying on the frequency of peeing and the regularity of stooling is an important indicator of volume. Babies gain usually an ounce a day or 30 grams a day for the first 3 months of their life. So it's roughly equates to about 200 to 250 grams a week. And again, that will be able to be tracked by your public health nurse, and then your visits with your GP, which should happen at 2 weeks of age and also 6 weeks of age. So this is a little roundup of what to expect after your baby is born. I hope that you find it useful, and I wish you all the luck with your new baby.